In this video, I will introduce you to the feature definition properties for a conduit. Start by looking at a drainage conduit. So I have the properties open on the left for the stormwater concrete pipe. I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So first we have the feature definition properties. It's going to be available on any civil feature. So this is going to include the name, the description, and the name seed. The conduit section you're going to see for any conduit feature. Now the list does change slightly depending on the conduit type that's been selected. But the first property is going to be a trench template. So this is going to allow you to pick a template from your ITL that's going to draw a trench on the conduit. Additionally, you can choose a corridor feature definition. We can also choose whether or not that trench gets created automatically. Typically, we'll leave that to false in the feature definition. And then after placement, you can set this to true and it will draw the trench. The network type and the function are both primarily going to be used for attribution. So for the function, I have it set to trunk line. If I set that to user defined, I could type in a custom function. And similarly, I could do the same with network type. So currently I have the network type set to stormwater only. Could also set that to combined, or if we have it to user defined, you can type in your own. The conduit type is going to control the element properties that get used after you place the element. So when I change the conduit type here, I'm going to get a different list of prototypes available because a channel is going to have different hydraulic properties than a conduit, and a conduit would have different properties than a gutter, and so forth. When we think about a conduit, this can be closed and open shape, so this is going to include the ditches as well as pipes and culverts. And then the shape orientation is going to control how the trench template gets applied to your conduit. Moving down to the hydraulic prototype, this is where the default settings for an element get defined. So if I place this conduit on the stormwater concrete feature definition, it's going to read the properties for a circular concrete prototype, and then it's going to apply it to the drainage properties of that element. And then at this point, I can make any changes that are going to be specific to the element I have selected. Item types can be applied to any civil feature. These item types are going to allow you to add additional attribution to your civil properties. And then from that, you can annotate or report. You can also create display rules from those item type properties. I'm going to skip past the HDL, HEL display settings, as well as the symbology. Cover those two sections in another video. Move down to the user data extensions. The user data extensions are another way that we can add custom attribution to these drainage features. Now the difference between a user data extension and an item type is that this user data extension is going to add a property to the drainage or utility database. So that's going to be an extra property that we could query or that we could add to a flex table, make bulk changes. So it is favorable to have any type of drainage custom attribution added as a user data extension because it makes it much easier to assign that attribution using a flex table inside of this database setting. And then additionally, you can connect this user data extension to an item type if you did want to have that property as part of your civil features. All right, now moving up to a utility line, so I'm going to look at the properties for this gas line, HDPE. And going over the differences here, you can see the conduit section has a few more properties available. So we can still apply a trench template. And then the function and the network type are both going to be just attributes that you can define. You can set whether or not the inverts of the conduit get locked to the start and stop nodes during placement, as well as whether or not that conduit's going to have a single gradient. Then we have the conduit type, which is another attribution. The shape, which is going to control how it gets drawn in 3D. The shape orientation, again, is going to be how the trench template gets applied. And the conduit table is how we derive the size list for the utility. Now I'll talk more about that when I cover symbology.